I am lucky enough to have representatives from our varsity student athletes as well as coaching staff. Super awesome, super happy that all of you could join us here. So my name is Courtney and I am the host for your panel today, and I am joined by some lovely ladies who I will introduce in just a moment. For those that don't know me, my name is Courtney and I'm from Toronto. I actually grew up playing sports, everything from soccer to hockey to boys football. However, soccer was my main sport, and I always found that sports provided me with opportunities to make new friendship, traveling opportunities, gain life characteristics such as drive, passion, teamwork. And these are all things that I've incorporated as I've gone through each chapter in my life. Sports also provided me with the opportunity for education. I was very fortunate enough to attend a small school in Arkansas on a Division I full athletic scholarship for soccer, in which I played there for a couple of years and, won our conference, which was amazing going in as a freshman. From there, I continued on with my education, in which I pursued a master's of education in leadership with a concentration in athletic administration. And so I've really been fortunate enough that I've been able to pair my love of sports and education together. As I've continued throughout my career path, I've actually started working in the athletics and recreation field in higher education, which is what my current role is. I work at Sheridan College in the athletic and rec department as a facility coordinator. So let's introduce our panel. Okay, from women's volleyball, I have Jay.
So I'm Jay. I play on the women's volleyball team. It's my first year, so I didn't really get to play, but next year, and I'm in Bachelor of Photography program.
Awesome, welcome. Next up, I have Melanie.
Hello, so my name's Melanie. I am a third-year athletic therapy student at the Davis campus, and I play for the women's soccer team.
Nice, welcome. Next up, I have Madison.
Hi, I'm Madison. I also play for the women's soccer team, and I am in the Early Childhood Leadership Bachelor program.
Awesome, welcome. Next up, I have Camilla.
Hi, my name is Camilla. I play for the Sheridan women's basketball team, and I'm currently in my last year of the kinesiology and health promotion program.
Amazing. Next up, I have Jamie.
Hi, my name's Jamie. I play on the women's varsity rugby team, and I'm in my third year of the kinesiology program as well.
Welcome. Next up, I have Lauren.
Hi guys, my name's Lauren. I'm actually one of the only coaches here, and I am one of the coaches for the women's rugby team. And I kind of found my way here through playing rugby and knowing the other coaches. I have had the opportunity to play at Western, got my kin degree, and then I went and played at Humber. I did my paramedicine, and now I'm currently my doctor of chiropractic down in Toronto. So I'm having a little bit of a education crisis.
I feel you on that. My coworkers will tell you I'm a lifelong learner. Multiple degrees later, I haven't stopped. Next up, we have Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny. I run on the women's cross country team, and I am a fourth-year athletic therapy student.
Welcome. And last but not least, we have Isabel.
I'm Isabel, and I'm on the cross country team as well. And I'm currently in my fourth year of the craft and design program specializing in furniture.
Awesome. Welcome, ladies. And joining us a little bit later will be Aura from the women's basketball team. I'll let her introduce herself, and then from the women's volleyball team, we'll have Judith joining us as well. So basically, we have a couple questions here that I'm going to ask and the panel's going to talk on. And then at the end, if you have any questions or comments, viewers, please let us know. We're happy to answer them. So let's start it off with, what does International Women's Day mean to you? For me, it means an opportunity to really be able to show the world that who we are and what we're about. And ultimately, it, to me, is empowering others and lifting others up, regardless of race, sex, etc. I've got Camila. What do you think?
Yeah, so International Women's Day for me is like a day where I can personally reflect on how proud I am to just be a woman in sports and just a woman in general in life. and then really recognize on the progress and like the steps I've made throughout my career and throughout my life. That's what Women's Day really means to me.
Amazing. I love it. Lauren, what about you?
I'm going to play off what Camilla said and just about the recognition. So it's a day to kind of recognize women in sport. I think the awareness is what helps us most in realizing that you have role models within sports. So you can kind of make that connection. So this just gives an opportunity to kind of lay that foundation so that other women can kind of step up and see other women in these roles and kind of be accepted or more willing to kind of fit into these roles so that they can get the same experiences as us.
I think that's awesome. And I think that really does encompass what it represents. Next up, I'm actually going to call on Isabel for this question. What progress have you seen on gender equality in sport in your career?
So through elementary school, high school, and now college, I can see that the team dynamic along the way has changed. Through high school, there was a lot less a girls' team integrating into the boys' team and maybe even hanging out or doing workouts together. So my college cross-country experience has definitely been more inclusive. And my cross-country career at Sheridan College, the women's team is being celebrated just as much as the men's team, which is something that was kind of lacking in high school, whereas like the senior boys would always be like, ooh, celebrated, which is great, but it's nice to get that same recognition. And then also there's the emphasis on running and actually being a member of that team, which I feel like I wasn't necessarily getting in my entire career, but I definitely feel that now as an adult, especially at Sheridan. And towards the end of my career, I had the opportunity of having a female coach, which, like, not saying that the male coaches aren't just as good, but I'm able to relate to a female coach in ways that I can't to a male coach. So that was also a fabulous experience.
Yeah, I honestly completely get it. I think as females, you just relate to a female on a different level. And we have amazing male coaches and we have amazing female coaches at Sheridan, but it's really fantastic to see a female coach be brought on for the cross country. And I know that she did really well with you guys. Lauren, did you want to add on, or is that from?
Yeah, I just have again to expand, but with the expansion of women's sport, I've also kind of recognized we've seen over time the expansion of like inclusion of women within men's sport. So instead of being our own separate entity and having our own kind of opportunities, we see that women are going into allowing to be players within men's sport, be included within teams. It's seen within men's football is a common sport, but also within coaching staff. So there's a couple NFL staff that have come out, like women have made it up to the top ranks. The NFL ref this year that are coach at the Super Bowl. And also like the administrative staff. So it's kind of across the board where more women are stepping up into these roles and being role models, even in like healthcare staff as well. So every single team has like the athletic therapist that I said, but it's just giving the opportunities and allowing women to step into those roles and be leaders, and having women in leadership roles in like a men's sport just kind of paves the way for future women to kind of be created equal.
1000%, I agree. And I think we all can agree with what we're talking about here. That's why we're on this call. That's why we play sports, because of the benefits from it. So moving on, I'm actually going to call on Danny for the next question. Do you find there are more barriers to sport and physical activity for women?
There definitely are a lot more barriers in sports. One of them is mansplaining to female athletes in interviews. It's seen a lot of times where we're kind of degraded or seen as like inferior or lesser, whether that's like they just don't think we're as educated or as good in sport. I don't know, but there's definitely a lot of that kind of going on. There's also in broadcasting, the women's NBA is not broadcasted anywhere in comparison to the NBA. And I've seen that in hockey as well. Same thing. They would rather play like an entry-level hockey game for men's hockey versus the women's silver medal game. So there's a lot of that kind of needs to maybe revisit, or something along the lines to kind of be more supportive and inclusive with women's sport, because women are just as capable, if not better sometimes, than the counterparts. But one really cool thing that I saw, and many of you might have also seen a viral video with the women's soccer team, where they actually huddled around the female player who had her hijab had come loose and started falling off, and that team kind of came together to kind of support her and shelter her in that time while she was able to fix her hijab to continue playing the sport.
Mm-hmm. I think you bring up some amazing points. And to your point on broadcasting, the WNBA actually saw an increase 15% in viewers, where all pro men's sport actually saw a huge decline in 2020. Obviously, COVID played a factor, but the fact that our WNBA was able to increase 15% and actually our Nationals Women's Soccer League from a broadcast standpoint increased by 493%. That's amazing. So ultimately, what can we do as a society to prevent these barriers?
Comment on that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's supporting, it's viewing, it's, you know, sharing those posts, resharing those posts, empowering each other. Lauren, what were you going to say?
Just commenting and correcting the kind of opinions out there. I find the biggest opinion even now on social media is when we are advertising women's sport, the commentary on those comments is very negative. It's very, well, why would I watch women? Women suck at sports. And I think with the increase in advertising and national site, that people start to kind of increase their confidence and kind of understand that women are athletes. Like when I'm watching sports specifically, I find a lot of women's sport to be different. It's not comparable. Like women's soccer, I would say, is one of like the most aggressive sports I watch compared to men's soccer. Same thing with basketball. I see like men's basketball, not to say anything against men's sports, but it's very showy. And I feel like women put their hats on and do the work when they're on the field. They're not there to look fancy. They're there to kind of dive in, do the work and like improve. And I think that also comes from our drive to have to prove ourselves, because we don't want to have that commentary. When we do see that commentary, we want to come up and show ourselves to kind of prove them wrong, so that the next time someone goes to comment, we can be like, that's not accurate. So it's kind of a defensive mechanism, but it's like helping the women around us improve. So leave it, it's because we have to. And it's kind of upsetting to see that general opinion and see that's a common opinion, but it also kind of paves the way for all of us to step up.
1000%. And I think we all can say, you know, when we put on our cleats or shoes to go running, to go kick a ball, to throw a ball, go shoot some hoops, it's the pure love and passion that we have for the sport and the determination to be successful as opposed to be showy, like you mentioned. And ultimately it's coming together. One thing that, and this kind of leads into the next question that we have, one thing that hit me hard was when I was in university, my team had never won a championship for our conference, and we actually ended up winning the same year that the boys basketball team ended up winning. And when I say our conference rings were this big compared to the boys that were this big, it really hit home when they got this huge celebration, and it was like, well, we won too, and and we had created history, and it just fell flat to everyone else. And so that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, what challenges or barriers have you encountered in your specific sport in the past? Or is there a time when you felt that you should have advanced or been rewarded for something that was given to someone else of the opposite gender?
I can start this one as well. Sorry, I'll stop talking eventually. But I find that even within coaching, and I'm very fortunate, I play rugby, and women's rugby is one of the only sports where women's and men's, like the sport is kind of similar rules. We don't have any different rule changes or adaptations to our game. So I find on that kind of level, I've been lucky and fortunate to play in a sport like that. And we are very family oriented. We're always close with the men's teams and everything. So it's a very inclusive sport to be a part of. But fitting into the more coaching side, where obviously male coaches dominate almost every single sport, I find that I always have to prove myself. And I feel like most women probably feel this, I feel like I have to explain myself, or I have to have a reason to do something, because if I say something, it's not just automatically believed. And even though coming onto teams where I've had more coaching experience within women's rugby specifically, more playing experience as women, because I'm a female player and the male coaches have not played within women's rugby, and just general coaching experience from the education side and the experience side on like a basic whole level, I've been more experienced, and I've still noticed that I'm questioned continually. And that's one of the biggest kind of step back to me, is like, I show up here, I'm qualified, I was asked to be here. And even when I am asked to be here because I'm qualified, I'm still questioned. And that's one of the biggest things I find inequality, because someone else can walk on if they're a male and give their 2 cents and it's automatically believed. And I can come in with a day's worth of research and like reasonings for all my drills, and I'm still questioned as to like what the reasons are, or if they're going to be successful, even though I've gotten those drills from other successful coaches and other successful coaching styles. So I guess, again, it kind of sucks, because I feel like even if I want to say a small remark, I have to sit there and like figure out why I'm saying it. And there has to be a reason. And if I'm questioned, I feel like I have to have an answer. I don't want to say anything. And that kind of sucks because we're missing out on a lot of valuable information and input, because I feel like if I'm questioned, I don't know if the reason's going to be good enough. So I don't say anything. So I feel like women are just quiet. And I feel like we need to be more confident and like stepping up for ourselves. And that comes from like the women players supporting the female coaches, because if you're not supported, they won't show up. And at the end of the day, if you don't support the women's coaches, they're not going to come back. And I feel like there's a lot of understanding between men and women that like women need female role models to be in the sport to kind of have the sport grow. So I feel like that's something that we need to, it's like all of us here need to pull up our pants and kind of tell them to step back, because this is our sport. Like everyone here is playing their women's sport. Like it's more their sport than it is the coaches, and it's more their sport than any male representative. So I think we need to start stepping up for that.
1000%. Camila?
Yeah, I came into my first year. Before even that, the women's basketball program was in a dry spell. And so the men's basketball program, kudos to them, they've always been a very well-ranked team, and not taking away anything from that. But we were always under the shadow of the men's team. It was, everyone would go to the men's game. Everyone's ready to, we went onto the bus and it was the men's game that everyone was talking about. It wasn't, we were just there the first game, like the warm-up game before theirs. So that culture kind of played a toll on like everyone on my team and stuff like that. But then we took it upon ourselves and created this amazing culture and started building up, started making it to the playoffs, started to go to the OCAAs, and really representing ourselves and not comparing ourselves anymore to the men's team, and just taking our goals and our achievements each year with stride. And it's definitely changed the culture around the basketball atmosphere at Sheridan again, and I'm very proud of it. So yeah.
And I will say this, I have been to watch all of our Sheridan teams, and I would say all of our athletes are powerhouses, especially our female teams. Again, we love our male teams, but I think each and every time you guys step onto that court or that field, you really do put in that effort and really represent Sheridan on a higher level. Jamie, what are your thoughts?
Just to like kind of like keep speaking to the barriers thing, I found in high school, like the girls had way more opportunities than any of the boys, actually, just because our teachers weren't willing to coach the boys. They were showy, like Lauren said. They don't want to show up to practices. They just want to go to the games. Whereas like the girls were always willing to put in the work, and they were willing to show up to every practice. And I find like women in sports, like you almost have to do 10 times the work of a man to be like, to almost like get the same recognition. So that was a big thing for me, was we had every team opportunity available compared to the boys, just again, because they found we were so much more like reasonable. We wanted to be there. We wanted to put the work in. And so that was like a really big thing for me getting into sports. I played on almost every sports team in high school. And I'm just very thankful for that, because I know like a lot of girls didn't have the same experience.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and kudos for your teachers throughout your high school career that were able to assist and push you guys to understand that you can achieve more. And I think that's fantastic. So moving on, I'm actually going to call on Jay for this next question. Is there any way that you personally have tried to influence or attempted to make change to gender inequality biases in sport?
Yeah, so in grade 12, I actually played on the boys volleyball team. I tried in grade 11, but I was told by coaches and teachers that I was going to get hurt and that it wasn't safe. But we also didn't have any co-ed sports at school whatsoever. So I talked to refs, and I sent a letter out to like the board office giving a list of reasons why I need to do this. And they overruled the school and said yes. So my last year in high school, I played on the boys team. And I actually played on that team like more than I did on any of the girls' teams I played. So also in grade 12, I peer taught grade 9 classes. So they all looked up to me for doing that. So it was just like this big, huge thing when it happened.
Honestly, that's amazing. Looks like you got a little clapping action from a couple of our fellow panel ladies here. I think honestly, like, that's amazing. I actually had to play, didn't have to, but I wanted to play football in elementary school. And not a lot of schools have a female football team. And so I ended up playing for the boys teams, and I played 2 games. And then I remember that one of the parents from the other team, because I was a kicker, they actually went and complained because they didn't want their son playing against a female. So I think and I ended up having to leave the team, which in elementary school is really hard to understand. But I think, honestly, Jay, I think that's amazing what you did. You paved the way for a lot of younger females going through. Melanie, what about you?
Yeah, just speaking upon like changing the biases and inequality, I would say that I often have to speak up for like, if usually a guy, usually it's a friend. So I am capable of just saying how I truly feel and like sticking up for women in sport on how have you ever seen a women's soccer game? Have you ever seen a women's basketball game? Have you ever seen how like competitive the females get, and being able to just prove themselves? And every time they're like, no. I'm like, well, then why are you judging? You can't just go out and say things about a women in sport and then try to bash them if you're not even going to take a chance to watch and like see how hard these females work, as we've all said already. So I'd say I'm constantly having to just stick up for females and making sure that everyone is on the same page with just proving that females do belong in sport and that they do deserve a chance to be recognized within the sporting community.
Absolutely. Next question, I'm actually going to throw it over to Danny. Why does gender equality matter, and how do you think we can continue to make it progress?
I'm a strong believer in the fact that gender equality is important because women are just as capable, if not more capable, than men in a lot of aspects. I think it's really important to be supporting and to advocate for, or even just recognizing women's sport contributions in all aspects, like we've all talked about today. Just that simple undershadowing that women are kind of getting, like they're not getting the proper recognition for their contributions, for their achievements, for their successes. There's good and bad to that. And with that, again, is TV, sporting events, even job opportunities. I mean, we have coaches here, and I'm sure Lauren could speak to that as well, and having equal pay for women as well.
I agree. And speaking from a female in the sporting industry, I have worked in for-profit, I have worked in nonprofit, and I have worked in higher education in athletics and recreation and sporting in general. And there are often times where I've been told that, well, you have a much harder road because you're a female and it's the sporting industry. So you really have to gain a thick skin to proceed to move on, but we shouldn't have to. We should be treated equally based on our education, our knowledge, and our experiences. Lauren, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like if we want to battle these things, we have to be the change that we want to see. And that's honestly why I decided to get into coaching in the first place, was purely just because we didn't have coaches available for the teams that I wanted to play on. And I found that year after year, the women's team specifically were just getting the coach left over, or the coach that had to coach, because we didn't have anyone else. There was no one really stepping up to be that kind of role model or leader for the women's teams. And I was upset about that. And when I was kind of fizzling out of playing, because I torn my ACL twice now, I was going to leave the sport. And then I kind of felt like I didn't want to be that gap. I didn't want to kind of have the list of all the things that I wish could have been better. I wish other opportunities I could have had, and then to leave the sport and just kind of let it slide and let all the women behind me kind of fall through those cracks as well. I mean, that's kind of why I've gotten into coaching, just so I can kind of challenge those biases and set up a foundation for future women and kind of be that friend or leader for those women. I feel like in sport, women are not understood just because it is a female or a male dominated thing. And even coming down to training styles and things that we overlook, that we shouldn't be treated differently than men, but we are very different to some capacities, like even capacities of training cycles kind of in line with your cycle. And women are more likely to get injured in certain phases of their cycle. And that's a lot of things that male coaches wouldn't even take into account. So if a female athlete is looking tired or drained or is not working very hard, their immediate thought is that you're not trying hard enough. And it's not the fact that you are exhausted and you're at that stage in your cycle and you still physically have that energy. So just that understanding that I want like the women here to bring forward, so that when you are ready to leave your sport playing because you aren't capable, to kind of look for those avenues to coach, because you get the opportunity to create the opportunities that you wish you would have had. And like, it's awesome to see like the athletes grow and just kind of teach all the things that you were taught. And it's not even whether you win or lose. It's just the fact, like, the best moment I've ever had in sport is watching one of the players catch on to what you said. And I'm just like, we talked about in that practice and we didn't see it happen at all in practice. And then in the game, you did it when you needed to. And it's just like that moment where I'm like, oh, they're listening. And like, that's the payoff that you need. You don't need, like, I want to be paid. And I've been fortunate enough because I've come into the sport when female coaches are starting to get paid, but the pay is something else that you get at the end of the season. And it's just like the highlight of the day or the game when you see someone listen to what you've told them and like they actually take that to heart. And like, I remember all the times that a female coach has told me anything and I'm like, I remember, and I bring it into coaching all the time because like there's stuff my university coach told me in 2013, because I'm that old, that I remember to this day. Like there's stuff that I've learned in high school that like stuck with me, and I've brought it through every single coaching experience and I told it to my girls, and you can see it click in their minds. And it's just like that feeling of confidence and like giving someone else confidence that makes it like so much better.
Yeah, I honestly, I completely understand and agree. And that kind of leads me into the next question, which I'm going to actually have Danny touch on first. But is there a particular female role model or athlete, league, or team who inspired you to play sports? If yes, can you elaborate? And do they have a platform, and are they using their platform for good?
Okay, so this isn't actually someone who has maybe made me play sports, but I just wanted to touch on and highlight Becky Hammond. She's the first ever female NBA acting head coach when the Spurs head coach was ejected from the game. And she is the second female assistant coach, which is huge because to be a female in a male dominant sport isn't typically seen, especially the fact that she's only the second female to be in this kind of position, right? And she's advocating a lot for females in sport and for these positions as well.
Amazing. Camilla?
That was a great example, Danielle. One of my like people that I always like think about, but my role model and the person who really like pushed me into sport and stuff like that, I have amazing women in my life, but my main role model would be my old coach, Sheridan Bruins, and she was actually a Sheridan Bruin, all Canadian too. So it was kind of nice, that transition. And yeah, no, she always strived not for us just to be good on the court, but just to be just good female, inspirational, empowering people in our lives. So she's always instilled a lot of like rules and guidelines and pushing me to pursue like a career and stuff like that. So yeah, she's definitely one of my role models, and I still keep in touch with her. And now she's like still coaching. Now she's coaching at Mohawk, and she's done a lot of prep school coaching. So she's using, again, her platform, her voice, and her knowledge for good, and really, again, motivating more people to become something like her.
That's amazing to hear. I love when it's close to home. One of my role models is Alex Morgan, who, I don't know if you're aware of her, but she's a women's soccer player. She played for Team USA. She played in the National Women's Soccer League, and her and three other female athletes actually just started a brand together in which it's to elevate women's voices and tell their stories. And why I think this is honestly perfect that she started it is because Alex Morgan, in my opinion, she is blunt, she is courageous, she will say what's on her mind regardless of potentially who it offends, and she really has put women's soccer on the map. And so I think she's played a really big role for me personally. Jamie, what about you?
For me, so I played rugby in high school, and I got one of the worst concussions ever. It was my 5th one. I was like, didn't remember anything that happened that week, and I just didn't want to go back to the sport. I was so scared. And I was actually watching, not rugby related at all, but I was watching the CrossFit Games. It was like the past year summarized. And I had known like a lot of like rugby players did CrossFit as like off-season training. And I just saw how powerful these women were, and they got the same screen time as the men. The final prize money at the end was the same as men. And I was just like, okay, like, how about I try CrossFit and I get back into this and see if I want to play rugby again, like next summer. And The women I met there are just so strong, and they just don't care what any man has to say. And like that was a big thing, is because like I just naturally put on muscle, and like guys would make comments like, you shouldn't look like this, you're bulky. And I just knew, like, not in the high school setting, but back at my CrossFit gym, like I had like women who looked like me, like they're like supporting me and pushing me every day. And that was like one of the only reasons I even got back into rugby. Like I wouldn't have been playing on a varsity team at this point. So yeah, for me, like having those role models and looking at those people on my screen, I was like, I could do that. I could get back to where I was. So yeah.
And that's awesome. That's what it's about. It's supporting on all levels. Isabel, what about you?
So my cross country career started in grade 8. I was never really like a sporty person up until then. I just really wanted to do a sport in elementary school and make the yearbook, etc. And the same year, my younger sister was starting her first year in cross country, and watching her excel and just do so well in the sport, and she was always doing other things too, soccer, etc. She has really pushed me to continue, and now I'm like in college still running cross country. Like, it's just, yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to watch her too and continue.
That's awesome. Oh, looks like we've got Judith on the call. Welcome, Judith. Do you want to give a quick introduction to everyone on who you are, what team you play for, and what program you're at Sheridan? I think we lost Judith. We'll get Judith back. No worries. We will get her back. But in the meantime, I'm actually going to call on Jay for the next question. The theme of International Women's Day this year is to challenge and call out gender bias and inequality. Are there any gender biases or inequalities you want to challenge or call out right now?
Professional teams and how women get paid way less than men in it. Men get paid a lot more than women.
Sorry, I just touched my AirPod and I ended the call. I'm so sorry about that.
No worries. Let's have your introduction.
Okay, yeah, my name's Judith. I'm in the women's volleyball team, and I'm in the Bachelor of Community Safety. And yeah, I actually love talking about this stuff. So I really love hearing about everyone's like role models and everyone's opinions and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the panel. Jay, I completely agree. The fact that men make more money at the same sport that women do, and I think we've all kind of talked on it. We love our male counterparts, that especially the ones that we share the same court with, but at the end of the day, we've all kind of touched on, we as females feel as if we put in, you know, that extra 110% as opposed to just that 100, right? So I definitely think the pay scale, I mean, that it's incredible, the vast difference between the male and the female teams, especially professionally. Melanie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think a bias would be that girls can't do what guys can do. And Jay, you clearly proved that wrong for playing on the men's volleyball team in your grade 12 year. And I've seen in the past where girls also play on the football team. They may not be doing the same thing, but they're still playing with the boys. So clearly they can do what men can do as well. And I'm sure it'll keep happening as time goes on.
Absolutely. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I would like the term "you're really good for a girl" to be eliminated completely from the vocabulary of the English language. I'm tired of the comparison of women versus women and men versus men, as if, like Jay has set an example, that we can obviously compete at the same level. The female who competed, I don't know her name, sorry, because hockey's not my sport, but who was the example for one of the men's hockey skills competitions, ended up showing up all of the men and just proved that we can show up and compete on the same field and we should be compared as such. So
1000%. I think we can all agree to that one for sure. The next question that we have is International Women's Day celebrates women's achievements. Does anyone want to share some achievements for themselves or someone close to them? Danny, I know you had a great answer prepared for this one.
Yeah, this is actually what I'm most excited to talk about today. I would just like to highlight, first of all, women's cross country specifically. I've only been part of the team the past couple of years, and they have changed history for that team specifically. I'd also like to give a little shout out to our coach, Keisha. She joined us as a phenomenal assistant coach, and now she is leading our team as head coach. She is our biggest fan. She is our support system. She is our go-to person for pep talks. If you're struggling with whatever it might be, if you don't have confidence in yourself before a race, if you're struggling in literally any aspect, she is always there for you, and she will pump you up to wherever you need to feel better. She is our team mom, and she is all around just a selfless person. So I'm just really thankful to have her as a role model and as a coach for our team. And going off that, I just want to highlight, unfortunately, we didn't have a season this year, but going off of last year's results, we opened our season at the St. Clair Invitational, and our women's team finished 3rd overall, which is amazing. One of our runners, Marla, had a great season. She had a couple 3rd and 4th place finishes. At the OCAA championships, the women's team finished 4th place overall, and we punched a ticket to nationals in Alberta. We did that as well the year prior, which I don't know if the women's team had previously made nationals, or it was a bit of a struggle, because I know specifically to the cross country team, it was just a struggle to get the runners to be a part of a team to even be eligible to qualify for provincials or nationals. And we had 2 female runners also finish top 10 overall at the OCAAs, which is amazing as an individual performance that helped bring our team up to that 4th place finish and qualify for Alberta. And then while we raced in Alberta at the national championships, the CCAA, we had terrible weather conditions. They were even debating on potentially canceling our race, but everyone had worked so hard to get there. We ended up racing. We ran in negative 29 degrees Celsius weather. We were frostbitten. Some of us had to be treated, myself included, for hypothermia and whatnot. After, I think Isabel and I actually both collapsed at the finish line. It was a pretty messy, gruesome race, but nonetheless, the women's team placed 12th overall in Canada, which is amazing. So I'm super proud of everyone.
Honestly, I remember when you guys went and hearing the feedback that Scott, one of our facility coordinators who went out to assist you guys in this championship from a Sheridan representation, he would be texting and he was like, it's just so cold. So kudos to all of you on the amazing job that you did. Does anyone else want to share some achievements or some shout outs? Okay, let's move on. So during this time, have you been able to stay connected with your teammates during this prolonged off season? COVID has been difficult on everyone. If so, what type of activities has your team done virtually? Judith, what about you?
So actually, it's my first year at Sheridan. I was at Canadore College last year, and it was just like such a drastic difference in how the coaches and how the girls bonded. So for this year, because I've never met any of my teammates in person, we've just been doing Zoom calls and like a team bond Zoom call. Jay is actually hosting our first like cake decorating team bonding activity next couple weeks coming up. So it was actually very refreshing having almost like a connection in person, but I don't know, it was just like, it was really surprising that I was able to connect with these girls without even meeting them. And one of our coaches is a woman as well. So she really puts it to our mind that, communication is important. And as women, we have to stick together. As sisters, we have to stick together. So that's just been a really good introduction to Sheridan for me.
Amazing. I honestly love hearing that. And I know you haven't met everyone in person, but from the staff to the girls that are on the women's volleyball team, everyone is honestly amazing. And Jen, the coach you're speaking of, love, always so positive, so always so uplifting, always there when you need her. Anyone else want to talk on what their teams have been doing virtually? Camila.
Sure. We're not as fun in like baking. I don't know how to bake, so I'm not going to attempt that. But the basketball team, we just always stay connected with our WhatsApp groups, always checking in on each other, Snapchats, and just doing the simple messaging. Like I personally just try to message everyone on the team like, hey, what's up? Like, what are you doing? But at the end of the year, since we didn't have our athletic banquet, we had our own little virtual one where we had kind of like game night where we played like charades, who is most likely to do what kind of situation going on. So it was really fun to see everyone, especially the people who were graduating that year, a last like hurrah and goodbye to them. So that's what we did for athletic banquet.
Oh, that's amazing. That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys were able to do that. And Jay, I'm definitely going to need some tastings of the baking. I'm just saying. Big fan of sweets here. Maddie can tell you that. That and Diet Coke. So moving on, where would you like to see the future of women in sport go? Jay, I know you have to head out. Why don't you give us your quick response?
I'd like to see like more opportunities for women to play professional sports, especially volleyball, and get paid the proper amount compared to men.
I think we all agree with that one. Judith, what about you?
I'd just like to see women get treated the same.
I think we lost Judith again. I think she might have hit the AirPod again. Isabel, what about you?
So I think in order to overcome those barriers that we touched on earlier, we as women in sports need to recognize and support our fellow women in sports. Like this event we're having right now is a great example of how to support and create a community surrounding.
That's a good point, though. I feel like you guys have an opportunity to miss this year, but next year, go up and show up to the women's teams, like the other sports and everything else. Like show up and support just because they're women. You don't have to know the sport, but create that family dynamic within like the women's team, because you'll create lifelong friends, and just the opportunities that you'll have that you wouldn't normally have just from networking. You'll slowly learn it's more about who you know than what you know. So like make those friends, and then you'll help create a good environment for other people to come join you.
Absolutely. And I really do think that our Sheridan teams do a good job about showing up. I know that sometimes it's hard with things being hosted at different campuses, but I mean, I've seen our basketball girls come down to our volleyball girls games, rugby games, and soccer, and vice versa. So we're doing a great job. I think we can always elevate it, throw on our Sheridan gear, and go cheer our lungs out. Is a great way to really help and support. Anyone else about the future of women in sport?
So I guess I'd just like to say that we do have social media now, and we can use it for the good and like advertise that we're all going to see the girls. Let's go see them play. Like you're coming with me. Let's go. Like just advertising what's going on and what's happening within the school, and being able to just get the word out there would definitely be something we should all do more often.
Absolutely. And that actually really leads me into the next question, the last question, which is, what are things you can do to contribute to the success of female in sport? And Mel, you hit on it. Something as simple as sharing a post, reposting, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about your team. It can be about all the teams. It can be at all different levels. It can be at pro, it can be at a college or university level. It can even be a local team, because ultimately, if you're showing support, you're standing up, and you're even from your social media platforms, that makes a difference. It shows that you care. Anyone else want to touch on what are things that they can do to contribute to success of females? Camila?
Yeah, really like touching base on what Lauren said in the beginning is, when you're done, like I know it would have been my last year, so I'm basically done, but really giving back to the community, and especially maybe empowering the younger generation of women or the young girls that are going to be developing in our sport. So helping out, maybe doing like a little assistant coach, like helping out in like a summer camp, and really just motivating those new generation of athletes.
Honestly, I couldn't agree more. One thing that I ended up doing when I finished playing was I ended up coaching for the last 2 years of my university career. And I not only was coaching this team, but I ended up tutoring them because some of the girls were struggling in school, and really instilling a belief in them that anything was possible as long as you put in the work. And I really got that confirmation many, many years later, when my girls who were originally 12, I coached them for 2 years, so I coached them between 12 and 14. And after they had graduated high school, they had actually reached out to me on Facebook saying that 2 of them continued to play soccer throughout high school and ended up going on a full ride scholarship because I instilled that belief that they could do it. And ultimately, when I was coaching, I would pick them up. I would drive them to practice, and I was an unpaid college student going out 5-6 days a week. And it's because I wanted to ensure that I could pass on what I knew and the passion that I had for sport and the opportunities it gives us as females. So I know Lauren really touched on it, that it's that satisfaction of being a coach. So you always want to give back where you can. Anyone else have anything in terms of things that they can do to contribute to the success of females in sport?
I just have one last comment, and I think women need to be more confident. I feel like we all have some form of imposter syndrome. So when you see an opportunity, apply, especially if it's a women's sport, because that's the only thing that you're for sure going to be more qualified in, because you have that personal experience that a man doesn't have. Use that and preach on it, and then take your experience and provide the experience that you wish you had, or the experiences that you appreciate and still remember, and try and provide those for other people, because that's at the end of the day what it's about. Because we all got here because we had the leaders that we had, or we didn't get somewhere because we didn't have someone to lead us in that direction or tell us how to do things. So answer questions, be confident in yourself, don't second guess yourself in any avenue of life, because I feel like as women, we're our biggest barrier, just because we've been told no so many times that we just accept no before we even ask. So ask the question, and when you're told no, find out how to get the right answer that you want. Keep asking until you get the answer yes, and get the opportunities that you deserve.
Absolutely. Camila?
Yeah, I'm just going to shout out for Aura. Aura is also on the female varsity basketball team. She's just having technical difficulties right now. And she's also in the last year of kinesiology and health promotion program. She just wanted to add the suggestion that maybe adding the WNBA team for Toronto. So there's a representation in Toronto here too.
That would be awesome. I would like to go to some of those games. But yeah, I think in general, whether it's volunteering, using your social media platform, following those female athletes and brands. I mean, you have Gist, which is a female-owned news outlet for everything sports, and that's what they promote is we are female-minded. We promote female mindsets, females in sports. We talk on it, we live it, we breathe it. And, a lot of athletes out there are, look at Naomi. She ended up, I don't know if you guys are aware of her, but she ended up she's a famous tennis player, but she ended up boycotting the semifinals in support of the Black Lives Movement. Additionally, you have the WNBA, Atlanta Dream players advocating for someone who wasn't their coach or their owner to take over because that their owner, Kelly, was against the Black Lives Movement. And so that's where we as females, as smaller or as big as it can be, you can show support for not only females in sport, but also the inequalities that we see throughout our daily lives. And it looks like we just have some comments here where it's really admiring your thought process, Lauren. So that's awesome. And we as Sheridan should do more of these. And then Aaron mentioned empowering female teammates in co-ed sports also makes a big difference. Absolutely. So we have a little bit of time left, about a couple minutes or so. Are there any questions from the audience that the panel can answer, or does any of the panel members want to say any last remarks? Danielle.
I just wanted to say thanks for having us all here today to have this informational talk. It's been fun, it's been motivating, it's been really interesting to hear other people's stories as well. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And actually, I definitely need to give a huge shout out to Nadine, Rory, and Caitlin. For those of you who don't know them, they are the ones who got this ball rolling. And so Nadine and Rory are both rec coordinators at Sheridan, and Rory represents the women's and men's varsity volleyball, and Nadine represents the women's and men's soccer team. And then Caitlin is our information and marketing coordinator. So anything you see put out is from her. So thank you, Rory, Caitlin, and Nadine, for getting us all together. And I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with the panels. And then we do have one comment here. There is a debate on being feminist is bad. Can anyone suggest something on this?
I can say something quickly on that. I feel like the perspective of feminism being bad is the perspective that feminism wants to raise women above others. And I feel like the root of feminism is literally just saying that we want equality for all, because women are naturally the people that have lesser equality, or the one of the groups. But that goes to, I don't know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought, but honestly, I feel like we just need to spread like the awareness of feminism. It's not a bad thing. We want to be equal, we want to be treated equally, we want to have the same opportunities. That's not something to be negative about. And when more women speak up for other women, and when we encourage men to speak up for women as well, that concept will be broken down. I feel like we see like masculinity is a negative thing, and it's not the masculinity that's a negative thing. It's a toxic masculinity, and the fact that you need to fit into a specific definition to be considered male or female, or you have to fit a stereotype that's man-made and created by all of us in our society. It's interesting to me that we create these concepts and then we force our entire lives and everything that we do, and we change the way we are just to fit into these concepts that are man-made. And at the end of the day, like, we make our own man-made concepts. We can choose what's important to us. And I feel like that's evident with cancel culture. We have the power as a generation to approve of what we like and to discourage what we don't like. And we're learning to have that power as a generation. And as we're seeing like the change in racism and the things of in the past are slowly adapting, I feel like you just have to be the change that you want to see. And the more people, when you show up and support other women, people will see that and they'll just kind of follow suit and they'll follow what you're doing. So step up and be the change. Seems to be the common trend.
I love it. And especially with this year's International Women's Day challenge, I think that really speaks volumes on what we all can do as individuals, and then as teammates, as coworkers, as friends. And so ultimately, I want to thank all of you on the panel for joining in and really touching on some key points for women in sport. And thank you guys. It was amazing.
Thanks for showing up, ladies. Have a good day.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome, guys. So we're going to go ahead and end it here at this hour mark. Again, thank you guys. Really appreciate it, and keep on being awesome.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.